Right, good evening guys, welcome to G's Tight Lines. Something a bit different this evening. I thought I'd do a quick how-to. So off the back of last week's video where I was up at the local lake, drop shot in, a few friends that watched the video and a few other guys have contacted me and said, really enjoyed it, found it informative, but you talked about the knots, how do we do them? So that's why I'm here. So what I wanted to show you was the perfection loop, which is the loop that I refer to in the video. And I've got my gigs on tonight so I can actually see what I'm doing. And then I thought while we're doing this, we'll talk about a few other loop forming knots that I use for various different methods of angling. Okay, so firstly, as I say, the perfection loop. Now the perfection loop is a beautiful, I think, tidy knot. It's effective, it's strong, and it's very, very versatile. But there is a but to it. It can take a while to learn to tie it properly. And there's a few fundamental mistakes that can happen during the process if you go the wrong way, etc. But I will talk through it with you in detail. Secondly, is the old trusty faithful Rapala knot. Again, a very effective, very strong knot. Can be used for various applications. Not that tricky to tie, you just need to get your head around the processes to get to that, forming that loop and securing the knot. And then third but not least is the figure of eight knot. Now the figure of eight knot is, as it suggests, it's tied out of a figure of eight, but it's quite a, there's no finesse to it, let's put it that way. It's quite a rugged knot is probably the right term. It's quite nasty looking really, but when you've had one of those days where you've been on the bank all day long, you've just caught a snag or you've just lost a fish, you've been snapped off, you've lost your leader, you want to get back in for that one last cast, you can use the figure of eight knot to just whack out a piece of leader, stick it on your main line, whether it be braid, whether it be mono, whatever your main line is. You can tie a figure of eight on one end, a figure of eight on the other end, and you can form a loop together. It's very strong. I've actually landed some very, very big fish using that, but it's not something I'd suggest for your basic setups. It's not something I'd use for everyday fishing, but it can be used as a quick last minute measure when you just want to get that last 10-15 minutes in of fishing. All right, so that's the three knots we're going to discuss. I'm going to go into quite a bit of depth with the perfection knot, how we can attach things like swivels to it, swivel clips, various other terminal tackle. Okay, so firstly, our figure of eight knot. This is fishing line I would never use, it's just stuff for demonstration, it's nice and thick. So you've got your selected hook length or leader, or whatever you want to refer to it, and you want to make a perfection loop on the end. So what to do? So the first thing you want to do with that line is form a loop, form a twisted loop there. And it's really important, folks, that when you form that loop, you form the loop that way and not that way. Because if you do it that way, when you come to cinch the knot, it will slip and it won't hold. So you have to start again. So when you form it, you want, how do I explain this? So you want the body of the loop on the outside. And that's probably the best way to do it. So this loop we formed here, that will dictate the size of our loop, our finished loop on the finished knot. Okay, so if we want a small, tiny hoop, then we make that small. If we want a big knot, we make that big. It's quite simple. Okay, so remember twisting that so the main body of that loop is on the outside. Now at this point, pinch it with your thumb and forefinger. We'll go fairly big just so you can see. So this is our tag end and this is our main body of material. Bring your tag end and bring it back over and between your pinky and your material, okay, to form a second loop. Now that second loop will now sit over our thumbnail. Pinch all of that together, get our tag end and bring it in between those two. So it's coming in and it's sandwiching in there, okay? And again, pinch it in the thumb. Now your tag end wants to come on the outside, but again between your pinky and your material and down. Okay, now leave that alone. Come in from the outside of the knot and grab that front loop and pull. Okay, and at this point, get your finger and pull. That is now Loctite. Sorry, that's off the screen. Now, the one way that you know you've got this knot correct is once it's formed, there we go, sorry I was off the screen there, your tag end will come out at 90 degrees to the rest of the material. And that we know is spot on. Let's get that on focus for you, okay? So we can now hold that knot. That is not going anywhere. Okay, so applications for this knot would be, as we saw last week when I was drop shotting, you could tie up several lengths of leader. In that case last week I was using 6 pound leader, fluorocarbon leader. You could tie 5-10 of these and have them on rig winders ready to go with your hook. So all you've got to do is the loop to loop, weight on the bottom, attach whatever bait you're using, you're away. You haven't got to sit on the bank worrying about tying new leaders. You can have these pre-tied and ready to rumble. Okay, so that's your perfection loop. And as you can see, this tag end here, let me get that in focus for you, is perfectly right angle to the line. And that is bomb proof, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so I'll chop that one off. And I'll now show you how we tie it with a swivel. If ever you need to chop your loops off, if that's going in the bin, think about our wildlife and just chop that. Okay, so nothing gets its head stuck in there. Just a little thing, just one of my little nuances. Okay, so again, we're going to form that loop. Let me get some. Okay, so we'll now form this loop again. Remember the main loop body away from us. Okay, and at this point, take your swivel clip, even your hook, whatever it is you're putting on, and put that over your tag end and just keep it out of the way. Okay, so we'll complete the knot. Remember, loop between finger and body, bring the tag end through the sandwiched between the two, tag end through, and now rather than just bringing your loop through, get your swivel clip, whatever it is you've got, pop that through, and then with that, pull through there. Okay, that point pull, and again, perfect 90-degree tag end. The tag end, I never cut it flush. I always cut it 2 or 3 mil, and that just allows, it's not going to, but that will just allow for any slippage. Okay, and then that's that there. That's perfect. Now where this is really effective and where it really comes into its own is if you're fly fishing for pike and you're using tieable wire trace, then you can use that for attaching your fly. So your fly lures need to have that movement. If you're tying them direct to the wire, when you're stripping that fly back through, it would be as stiff as a board. So what you want, pretty much like the principle of the Rapala knot, is you want that to be at that eye to be able to move around so that your fly will get a natural movement like a bait fish through the water. When I am fly fishing for pike, the material I use, hook clips, now you can buy them pre-tied, but I don't see the point. If you're competent at the knots, invest yourself in not too kinky tieable wire. It's really thin stuff and it's superb. It's really strong. It's never let me down. It's quite expensive. I think this is about £9 and you get 15 foot. So this is the £18 breaking strain. And it's never let me down, this stuff. It's really, really good stuff. I'll try and find a link for where to get that. But this with the perfection knot, with the perfection loop onto your fly, bang on. That's absolutely the best method for it. So we'll move on from the perfection loop and we'll now move on to the Rapala knot. So the Rapala knot is, anyone that's been involved in angling for some time will know that this is a knot that's developed over time for the use of lure fishing. Okay, The whole idea was with this knot originally is before the days of swivel clips and quick links and the like, is that again, you could have that loop to loop and it allowed that lure to be able to move with its natural movement on the line without being fixed at the eye end and it losing that natural movement and rhythm, okay? If I'm brutally honest, it's not a knot I use an awful lot anymore, primarily because I'm using the Perfection Loop, and I think the Perfection Loop is a much quicker, much more efficient knot. And what I'll tend to do is, rather than having our swivel onto the Perfection Loop, I'll have a quick link so that I can interchange my lures as I'm going along. But where I also use it is in the winter months if I'm fishing for the trout on still water, and I'm using something like a damsel or a cat's whisker, just happen to have one here. Okay, that again, what you're replicating wants to be able to swim. So even on your small tippets, if you've got that knot right up to there, it's gonna lose that way of naturally swimming through the water. If you've got that looped, it's just gonna allow that to move. So as you strip it back, your small little strips or your figure of eights, it's just going to allow that some natural movement through the water. And take it from me, it is deadly. If you use it, that application, it will nail you trout all day long. Rapala knot allows us to attach this to our tippet or direct to our leader and have that movement through the water and nail you some big winter trout. Okay, so the Rapala knot, let me just chop that off there. And I'll use that swivel rather than plonking around that big lure. Okay, so our first step with our Rapala knot, just give myself a bit more line there so I can move about. Okay, so tag end. First thing we do is a simple overhand knot. Very important, no overhand knot, no Rapala knot. Okay, that's it, very, very basic start, just a simple overhand knot. Do not do up overhand knot. It will all become apparent why. So this is, I don't know, what do you want that to be? Your Rapala. Okay. So at that point, you can now, from the overhand knot, regulate how big you want that loop to be. So bring it to there, hold it through and go through the front of that knot, he says. Okay, so we're now there. So that tag end has come through the loop. And then following the natural lay of that, we want 3 to 5 turns around that body. So 1, 2, 3. Bring this back and bring that tag end, can you see there, with this small gap here that wants to come between the outside of the loop, the inside of the loop, sorry, and the outside of that tag end loop that we formed there. Okay, and bring that down. Straighten your main body and push. At that point, you'll do up your overhand knot, bit of gob oil, put it in your mouth and pull down those twists. Oh, I can see with my glasses on, okay. And there we have, again, what you're looking for is your tag end to come out at almost 90 degrees. All right, is that focusing there for you? So as I was saying, if we can imagine that's a lure, got the tag end off, that's going to allow that to move through the water rather than it being fixed and then that trying to move. The whole thing can move naturally without any resistance whatsoever, and it can do what it's designed to do and attract your fish and get them on the bank. All right guys, so that's the Rapala knot. Very effective and strong knot, and I recommend using it on certain applications, but there are times where the Perfection knot will be more effective. Okay, so that's that. Chop him off. And then last but by no means least, the nasty looking figure of 8 knot. The emergency get me out the poop knot. The emergency, I know that bloody great big 30-pound pike is sitting there, but I've just been snapped off by him. Okay, really simply, get the end of your material, okay. Give yourself plenty of tag end, okay, and then loop it, big loop, and back down on itself there. Okay, so we've got the loop formed. Grab both the main body and the tag end and twist together. At this point, grab these loops and turn them 180 and pinch. And coming in from in front of you, not from the back, but from the front, bring that loop through. Hence the name, figure of 8. Bit of gob oil, pull, get your finger in there and pull on it. That knot is solid. As I say, not an attractive knot. It's not going to win you any Nobel knot prizes. But when the proverbial hits the fan and you need a knot in an emergency, that's your one. Okay, so we've just tied this onto our main line braid. We've been snapped off. We know that just down there in that snag is a bloody great big fish. Okay, and I've tied my new rig and I've tied another figure 8 in the end of there. So all I'm going to do is pass my main line over, no, I'm going to put my main line through my rig loop, and then I'm going to bring all my rig and I'm going to bring it through the loop of my main line. Okay, so we've now got what appears to be a mess. Bring that over. So we've now got that, and pull. Okay, you've now got a very strong knot. Now this has got me out the poop a number of times and landed me some big fish, particularly when I used to do a lot of stalking for carp, being snapped off in the snags. And so I've used this to put on my floating bait, and that is, you could land a boat on that. Okay, but I wouldn't recommend it for your normal every day-to-day applications. Right guys, that's it really. If you've got any questions, please leave a message in the comments box. Thank you so much for all my recent subscriptions. It means the world to me reaching 200, and it's slowly building up from there. So if you've enjoyed the video, if it's been of use to you, please leave a comment. Please give us a subscription, share it amongst your angling friends and fraternity, and I'll see you hopefully on the bank very soon. All the very best guys, stay safe and tight lines.